What's up, everybody? This is Chris from the Rewired Soul, where we talk about the problem, but we focus on the solution. Today, I have a special treat for you because, as you know, I do multiple series and playlists on my channel, and this one is going to be combining two of them. One of them is my Ask an Addict series, where I talk about my addiction, my recovery, give you some helpful tips to help you in your recovery. But I'm also going to talk about my Losing Weight Mindfully series, where I am on a journey to shed some pounds. So hopefully you looked at the thumbnail, my amazing thumbnail. My thumbnail game is stepping up. But I want to discuss what addiction actually did to my body. So just to let you know, I have not always had this physique. I actually used to have a pretty decent body, and I need to do some videos just talking about self-love, self-image, and all that kind of stuff because, as you'll see pretty soon in some pictures, growing up, I was a bigger kid, but I always thought that I was fat, like super fat. And if you're somebody like me who's put on a lot of weight, you wish you could just go back in time, find your old self when you were looking in the mirror, thinking about how fat you are, and just slap the living daylights out of yourself. Like, I literally want to go shake myself in the past and say, look at me, this is fat, you are fine. Like, that's what I want to do, but they don't have the technology for time machines yet. But I was a triathlete in high school. I did football, I did wrestling, I did track. Although I was a little bit bigger, I've always just had the worst metabolism on earth. If any of you would like to know my eating habits, like, they aren't that bad. Like, I hate how there's like this stereotype that us fat people, like, we just like sit around eating Twinkies all day. I haven't even had a Twinkie in like decades. But the other day I was watching a video of this guy's weight loss transformation, and he was talking about how when he was overweight, he used to fill up a cup with maple syrup and drink it. Now, on one hand, this dude has lost like 300 pounds. Good job. But on the other hand, I'm sitting there like, oh man, people are watching this video thinking that us fat people drink glasses filled with maple syrup. Oh, this is not a good look. But that's a whole nother topic. But anyways, if you want to know about my eating habits, I might make a video about it because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about people who are overweight. But anyways, back to my story. I used to be in really good shape. I was always very strong too. When I was a sophomore, I had the highest bench press max for my weight. So I was very strong. I loved going to the gym and working out. But after high school, and you hear a lot of people talk about it, they're like, once you leave high school, it's going to be hard to keep that weight off. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And after high school, I was actually pretty good about staying in shape. Even though I wasn't playing sports anymore, I would go to the track, I would run around there, and I would go to the gym and lift weights. I was trying to maintain and still be kind of healthy. Around that time too is when my addiction really took off. And this weight gain, what you're seeing right here, if you watch my other video, which I will link up in the info cards above my head, my other video, I talk about how I've lost 15 pounds and I'm at 371. Just to give you kind of a reference of how much I weighed in high school, I weighed 225 pounds and I wrestled heavyweight. And heavyweight was, I believe, 220 pounds to 275 pounds. So I was actually one of the smallest guys in the heavyweight class for wrestling. So if you do the math real quick, I have put on, geez, I can't even do math, 180 pounds. And just so you know, when I got sober, my weight was actually up to 460 pounds, okay? I had a lot of medical issues that I'm gonna dive into in a little bit, but they used to have to transfer me to hospitals because I was so overweight that certain machines would not hold me, so they could do an MRI or an X-ray or whatever it is, some of that stuff where you lay down, and I was just too fat for it. But anyways, when I started to be consumed by my addiction, It wasn't just the drugs and the alcohol. It was that, like most of us, when you become an addict, you completely neglect your personal health, your mental health, obviously, and your physical health as well. Like, not many of us are these like fitness freaks when we're full-blown alcoholics and drug addicts. And I just threw a lot of, my good practices just right out the window. When you're somebody like me who drank insanely, I used to just go to fast food places all the time. When you're getting really blackout drunk, you're not really in the mood to cook. So like fast food places like Del Taco, Jack in the Box, Burger King, eating out all the time. I made decent money, so we would go to restaurants all the time. And I just did not even put one single thought into what I was putting in my body. And it took a little bit of time for it to catch up to me, but I gradually just started gaining more and gaining more weight. And, we get depressed in our addiction, and I was getting depressed that I started to put on all this weight too. So like, I have a million addictions, and one of the addictions I had was to food. So, to cover up my feelings, I would use drugs, I would use alcohol, and I would use food. I would just eat like a maniac, just the most unhealthy stuff. And I would get into modes where I was like, I'm gonna go back to the gym, I'm gonna do this. And just, when you're in your active addiction, it's just like, who cares? So it really sucked. And what's crazy about my addiction too is that I started to not eat as much. So some of the things that we do, some of the craziness of our addiction, I would often drink my dinner. So rather than having dinner, I would drink my dinner. I remember, like, one of the symptoms of us addicts, or even some people, is that we will take the most ridiculous information and lock onto it if it serves our purpose. What do I mean by this? I remember I worked with a guy, and he was talking about how he drinks rum and Coke, rum and Diet Coke, because it's basically no calories. And I'm like, that's a good idea. I love rum, I love Diet Coke. So sometimes I just wouldn't even eat, and I would just drink an entire bottle of rum with some Diet Coke. Now, clearly, that is not correct. There is a bunch of empty calories in alcohol, in liquor. So I was actually gaining weight from that. But like I said, you hear this piece of information and you latch onto it. The other thing is that when I started getting into prescription pain pills, so one of the things that, I don't know if any of you other pill addicts do this or did this, I used to not eat because if I ate, then it might not, the food that I ate would soak up the pill rather than it getting me high. So there was a lot of times when I just wouldn't eat, or I would starve myself just so I could take pills. Now, I was somebody who liked to snort pills, but sometimes, and I don't even remember the craziness of why I would switch back and forth. Sometimes I would just swallow the pill, so it was off and on with me starving myself. A joke that I always say, that's funny, like if you're in recovery, you gotta laugh about this stuff. But something else I say is, like, towards the end of my addiction, I actually got into cocaine. And like, I would try to justify my cocaine use because, like, from a young age, you learn people who do cocaine don't eat, they lose weight. And I was like, well, this will be my weight loss plan. Do a lot of cocaine. And I always tell people that I think that I am the only cocaine addict who kept eating like a maniac and didn't lose any weight. And it was true. I would do a bunch of cocaine at the bar with my friends, and then I would go to Jack in the Box and just stuff my face, and then I would puke because I would get sick, and it was just a hot mess. Next, that is not the only thing that happened to me. I had wrecked my body. I had completely destroyed my body. I could barely walk without getting winded. Like, I'm talking about 10 to 15 feet. Walking there, I would start wheezing, I'd be short of breath, I'd be sweating profusely. Like, it was bad. Now, the other issue I was having was I was swelling. I was swelling in my legs a lot. Fun story. When my son was being born, my girlfriend was in labor like most of the day, and I was swelling up, and my mom's like, you need to go down to the emergency room. Like, we'll take care of this. She's not having the baby yet. Go downstairs to the emergency room. So I was like, okay, my mom's worried. I'm swelling up. What's going on? So they asked me a bunch of questions, and I told them the truth, like a good person going to the doctor. And the guy comes back, and he's like, yeah, you're swelling up like this because you drink so much. So rather than quitting drinking, I learned a very valuable lesson. Don't tell doctors how much you're drinking or using, or they're gonna tell you not to do that. So fast forward a few years to when I was being very short of breath and sweaty and just dying pretty much. I was swelling up. I was swelling up from my feet, and it just kept going higher and higher up into my body. And I just kind of like brushed it off. I'm like, there's something weird going on with me. My legs were also very sore, and they were the size of tree trunks. Like, it was hard for me to even put on my socks, like, because they were so swollen, and I just neglected it. That's part of the insanity of our disease. And I finally decided to go to a doctor, but I didn't tell him how much I was drinking or using. And one of the doctors, they knew I was seeking pills. I'm like, oh no, my legs are in pain. And he wouldn't give me pills. And he tells me, like, just drink less water. And I'm like, bruh, it is Las Vegas summer, I need to drink water. But he was really just trying to get me out of there. I need to do a whole video about the medical industry and addiction because it really sucks. But anyways, so I started going to the emergency room, and mind you, I did not have health insurance. So I would go to the emergency room, swollen up. I would go in there. I wouldn't tell them about my drinking or using. They would give me diuretics to flush my system, and they would give me painkillers, and the swelling would go down. I would end up going back home, the swelling would go down, and I would start drinking again. Then I'd swell up again. I'd go back to the emergency room. They would give me the same pills. I would lose my swelling. I'd be like, well, maybe I'll just drink 3/4 of a bottle rather than the full bottle. I'd swell up like a balloon again. And I would go back to the emergency room. I just kept doing this sick, crazy cycle and just experimenting with alcohol. And finally, I went to the hospital, and they're like, yo, we need to admit you because you've become a regular at the ER, so let's see what's up. So they end up admitting me. And at that time, I started going through alcohol withdrawal, which is a whole nother video in of itself, but I started acting like a crazy person. I started trying to fight nurses. If any of you have been through alcohol withdrawal, you know what I'm talking about. I was hallucinating and miserable. But anyways, they called my mom and told my mom to come down to Las Vegas because she was my emergency contact, and they said, yo, your son might not live through the night. So I was 26 years old, and I had a 10% chance of living because of congestive heart failure, okay? What that means is that my heart was only operating at about 20%, maybe 25%. The reason I was swelling was because my heart was not strong enough to pump fluids that were going to the bottom of my body. So just like, there's gravity, thank you, Mr. Isaac Newton, you the man. But gravity pulls these fluids down, your heart pumps these fluids, and it circulates through your system. All these fluids were resting in the lower part of my body and filling up because my heart wasn't pumping. And to give you kind of a visual of what I did to my body, my heart was the size of my lung. Okay, they did an x-ray and they're like, look at how big your heart is. And I remember just seeing that overlay, like lung, heart behind it, and my heart was almost the size of my lung. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but that's not right. Now, that still wasn't a wake-up call for me to get clean. I ended up getting forced into getting sober by my mom. But what ended up happening was I got clean on my birthday, June 23rd, 2012, which was my 27th birthday. They put me back on the diuretics. Now, here's the thing. My insanity told me that the drugs and alcohol were not the problem. Okay? It told me that something else was wrong with me. There's no way drugs and alcohol are doing this to me. Well, fun fact, when I got clean and I stopped doing drugs, I got a lot better. A lot better. Now, what happened was, remember I told you I was 460 pounds? Within 4 weeks, I lost 60 pounds. It was about a month. Damn! It was purely water weight. All of the fluid that was in my body, it completely drained. I lost 60 pounds like that. My legs started going to the normal size. I still had some swelling in my legs, so I had to stay on the diuretics for a while. But what I'm gonna show you right now, this short little video clip that you're seeing, this is a reminder to me of what happened. So it's kind of hard to notice, but hopefully you see my veins are actually blown out. They're dead veins in my legs. I was very embarrassed and insecure about it for a while. Now it's just, for me, it's a reminder to me. It's a reminder every single day. Every time I get dressed, every time I put on my socks, every time I look at my legs, it's a reminder of what addiction did to me. And we need to remember this because it's something that I'm not cured of. I can't go out and just have one. So I need to remember what happens to me when I drink and use. When the swelling went back down, I ended up getting a cyst, an infection on the back of my leg. And I had to go to my mom's doctor. She works at a rehab, and he had to slice it open with a scalpel, scoop his finger in there to drain it out. It was excruciating, especially because I couldn't take pain meds because they were my drug of choice. Basically, he gave me like a few milligrams of Suboxone, and I had to bite down on gauze while I screamed. Now, I will let you know, there is a video of this, and I didn't show anybody when this happened 5 years ago, and a bunch of my friends asked to see it, so I posted it on my Facebook, and I still have it. So in the comments below, I don't know why I'm saying this. In the comments below, if you would like to see that, if it's a good reminder to you not to do drugs, leave a comment down below and maybe I'll email it to you, but I don't think it is safe for YouTube. Like, even if you're into that crazy, like, Dr. Zit Popper and stuff like that, like, this is pretty freaking gross. But that too, I have a scar on the back of my calf where they had to do that. I started going to a cardiologist. I was following up with doctors, a few things. Now that I'm sober, I have to learn to love myself again, and loving myself means taking care of my body. The biggest hurdle I had to overcome was going to the doctor. I hated doctors. I hated doctors. I felt like they never listened. I felt like they just threw medications at you and stuff. I had to learn to trust them because I was going to die if I didn't. They thought that even if I stayed clean, I was probably gonna die within a year. 5 years sober, still alive, what's up? But anyways, I followed up with him, and one of the amazing things that happened was when I moved back to Vegas a little over a year later, and I followed up with a cardiologist again, and they did the echo and everything, they were blown away. Like, because I told them my history, I have to tell doctors, like, I'm a drug addict in recovery, don't give me any drugs, da-da-da-da-da. And they were blown away. They're like, bruh. They're like, for being an overweight smoker who had congestive heart failure a year ago, your heart looks amazing. And I'm sitting there like, dang. And that was kind of motivation for me just to stay clean at that point. But now I'm on this weight loss journey because it's something that I've been kind of pushing off for the last 5 years since I've been clean. I started it last year, but I fell off. But hopefully making these videos keeps me accountable, and I hope you guys like watching it and seeing how I'm doing and stuff. Like I said, I'm down 15 pounds, but you know, part of the reason I got sober is so I could be a father to my son, and if I don't shed this weight, I'm not gonna be around for him that long, you know? And he's getting active, he plays sports. I wanna be the dad who can run around and play sports with him and stuff, and that's why I'm really working on this stuff now. Aside from that, I longingly look at these old pictures of me when I used to be a lot smaller, and I just kind of sit and I just kind of stare at them, and I'm like, that used to be you, Chris. That used to be you. But it gives me motivation. It gives me motivation when I see these pictures of the potential that I have to become that person again, to lose this weight. So it's been 6 weeks since I've been back in the gym. It's been almost a week and a half that I've gone vegetarian. Things are going good. I'm down 15 pounds. Last October, I was at 400 pounds, so I'm now down to 371. So about 30 pounds over the last year, and I'm gonna keep going. Like, my goal weight, I wanna be back down to the low 200s. That's what I wanna do. So help keep me accountable. But I wanted to share my story with you about what addiction did to my body. It almost killed me in a way that a lot of people don't think about. We think of overdoses. That's what we think about. Like, I was killing myself in another way. Most people who die from addiction, it is because of their long-term drug and alcohol abuse. It is not always they overdose. So I also wanted to show you the after effects. Again, I'll show you this quick clip of my beautiful legs to remind you, like, this is what can happen in addiction. But one of the things that is part of the wreckage of my past when it comes to my legs, when I got sober and I was broke and I was on welfare and food stamps and stuff, like, I needed to pay rent. And I remember going down to the plasma place, and like a dummy, when I went to go donate plasma, I wore shorts. They took one look at my legs and they said, nope, we're not gonna do it. Even though my blood pressure was good, it was too much of a risk for them. Something else, I only have I have 2 tattoos at this time. One of them's on my right leg. I've had this dream of getting this like sleeve on my left leg for a very long time. It's a really cool idea. I've had it in my head for like 10 years. All I gotta say is Marvel, Star Wars, crossover, comic books. It's gonna be sick. But I don't know if I can get that sleeve on my leg anymore because my leg is so jacked up now. But anyways, those are reminders to me of what I've been through and why I need to push forward. So anyways, I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned a little bit of what happens to your body when you become a drug addict and alcoholic. If you're watching this and you've had medical issues, if you've had medical issues from your addiction, please post them in the comments below. I wanna hear about them. I wanna learn more about them. I wanna hear how you're doing now, because we can get better and it should be motivation. We need to stick by each other's side and motivate each other. So leave comments down below. Let me know if you've had any medical issues and if I can be of any help with my wealth of knowledge from working at a rehab and with doctors and all that kind of stuff. So leave comments down below. If you like this video, as always, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Right below this little box, there's a little round subscribe button with my face in it. Hit that button. Always doing videos about mental health, addiction, and all that good stuff. But thanks for watching. This is Chris from The Rewired Soul, and I'll see you next time.